Okay, then everybody's muted. And the first pose I want to start with is a version of Supta Virasana, supine hero pose. So if you have a chair or something to lean back onto, you can use that. It's not required, of course, as usual, but I'm going to set this up like this. And so you can lean back onto really anything, onto a couch or onto nothing. You can lean back onto your elbows. It's also fine. So I'm just going to come over here now. And what I'd like you to do is just kneel down right there, just right in front of the chair. Okay. And then your knees are together and your feet are apart, more apart. This. Now, what I want to do is this is sort of somewhat of a therapeutic sort of approach to some of this tonight. So the first thing I want to do is take a belt. If you have two belts, now this is all optional, but if you have two belts, then you put it around and you see how this is? It's not under her shins, it's just tucked in behind her knee. Okay, so go ahead and sit down on the block. Feel okay? Mm-hmm. And then you tighten this, and it just kind of holds the knees in a nice, secure kind of way. It actually feels pretty good. The second belt, if you have, and we have to sort of figure this out a little bit, how to do this. Go underneath here. Yeah. So this one goes all the way underneath the shins. And then it comes over here. And we want this one really up high toward the thighs. Now the block kind of gets in the way a little bit. And her pants are kind of slick, so it doesn't stay in place very well. But this one is right up high on the thighs. And the other one is down toward the knees. Can you see that? Does that make sense? Maybe blocking the view a little bit. So she's got the two belts. The green one is just tucked in behind her knees and around the front of the shins. The purple one is the way we kind of normally do, where if you're down like this, it goes around your shins or, here, and then wraps all the way up over your thigh. And then you lie back onto the chair. And the idea is you want to lie back until you can start to feel a little stretch in your front of your thighs. Can you feel a little stretch? So if you're not feeling any stretch, then you go back further until you start to feel a little bit of stretch in the front of the thighs. How are you feeling? Not feeling anything? It's okay. If you don't feel any stretch in the thighs, that's okay. But you have the option of going further and further back until you do. So the idea is to go ahead and get into this position, find a position that's reasonably comfortable, and then we just stay there for a while. Are you comfortable?
Now I feel it.
Are you starting to feel it? Good. So that's perfect. We want to feel just some challenge to the front of the thighs.
My hands.
Your hands can be wherever's comfortable, on the floor, palms up, or on your lap, palms down. I think what's throwing me here, come up for a second. The chair isn't really centered behind. Okay, now. And the camera's a little tilt it off as well. So I'm going to change the angle, see if we can get a more squared up look. Succeed. It's worse. I think it's just because it's just off center. Okay, it'll do. So just release into this. You can close your eyes. You can just breathe through the nose and just be at ease here for a couple minutes. Now, of course, if this bothers your knees or if it's too intense on your thighs, then you can come out of the pose or you can just come up a bit to release. The other thing you can do if it's bothering your knees is sit on more height. So some people need to sit on 2 blocks. All right, so go ahead and come up from there, but stay with the same basic structure. We're going to stay with it. You go ahead and snap those off. Take the belts off. Take off your belts. And then, if you have it, you're going to take your blanket or towel, something with this level of thickness. So this is about 2 inches of thickness, I'd say. So if you have that, then we're going to put this right up behind your knees. So come up onto your knees. So the idea is to get this tucked right up behind the knees. Completely as tight up into the knee there as behind in the back of the knee as you can. And then sit down again. How's that feel? So what this does by having that behind your knee, it tends to open the front of the knee. So it actually kind of opens the knee joint a little bit. So now bring your knees together and then you can lie back again. And just to make it, keep it in a kind of passive mode, we'll go ahead and we'll keep using the belt. At least the one around the front of the knees here now. So with Anya, it's maybe not gonna stick well because of her slip pants, but I'm gonna use the blanket as part of the structure. So let's see. So if you want, you can do this around the knees and shins as well, just to passively hold your knees in place. That's an option. So all of it's an option. Just doing hero pose is good for your knees. It's just that for a lot of people, it puts too much stress on the knee. And if you're dealing with a situation where you have knee injury, then just doing a sort of freestanding hero pose can be kind of a problem. But just in terms of developing a practice where, like if you do a lot of running or cycling or other things that sort of put stress on the knees, then having a regular practice of putting this blanket behind the knee and lying back in your hero pose, Virasana, can just bring some gentle opening to the knee and give it the opportunity to kind of heal itself. That's the idea. So this is a really nice thing for recovery from stress on the knee. Okay, I think that's good for this. So come up. In your own practice, you may want to stay in that pose for a much longer time. Go ahead and snap the buckle off. Take the blanket out. And now we're going to see if we can keep in this basic mode a little longer. So I'm going to have Anya extend just your right leg forward. So here we're going to do Triyan Mukhaikapada Paschimottanasana. So your left foot stays in hero pose, half hero, and your right foot and leg extend forward. You're still going to be sitting on the block or some height. Now, if you're really open in this pose, you don't have to sit on the block. You can go right to the floor if you wish. But we want to keep both sit bones evenly, symmetrically balanced on the floor. We want to extend that right heel forward. Tighten the right kneecap into the thigh. And then you can use a belt if you wish, or not. I'm going to give Anya the belt here. I'm not sure how tight Anya's hamstrings are. We'll find out. So the belt goes around the ball of the foot, and then you hold the strap. And the idea then is to have the elbows lifted out to the sides, lift the torso, inhale, and then exhale, come forward. Keep your chest lifted. You feel that in the back of your thigh? Yeah, so she has tight hamstrings. So that's the answer to that question. So just come to the point where it starts to resist and just stay there. I'm going to do the same pose sort of facing into the side camera. So you'll have two views of it. It looks like I need to adjust the position of that camera. I'm going to do this. Well, that's how. All right, so then ease your way up from there. And then you're going to switch the leg positions. So the left leg will be forward and the right leg will be back in half hero pose. And then again, you want to be really upright with your torso. Put the belt around the ball of the foot. Hold the strap with your elbows lifted out to the sides. Lift the torso, open your chest, and then inhale, lift, exhale, forward bend. You can move your hands further up the strap if you want, however you want to do it. Yeah. Just to give you good leverage to kind of, you use the strap to support you in the forward bend, but also to give you leverage so that you can really keep the chest lifting, so you're not collapsing the back, you're not rounding the back. This Triangle Kaikapada Paschimottanasana, three-footed foundation, seated forward bend. Okay, and then let's do it one more time to each side. So go back to the first side. Make any adjustments that you need. More height under your butt, less height. Whatever you need. Extending the right leg forward. Using the belt around the ball of the foot. If you're using a belt, use the belt holding on so you've got that leverage and you've got that lift and openness. I like having the elbows bent and lifted out to the sides because that kind of guides you into keeping the chest lifted and open even when you go forward. If you're stretched out like this, the tendency, you can see it, you start to round your back. We want to, there's rounding in the back when you go into the full forward bend, but we want to keep the chest lifted and open as much as we can. So whenever you're ready, go ahead, you inhale, you lift, you exhale, you extend and fold into the forward bend. All right, come up and switch to the second side. Same thing, full extension now with that left heel. The right knee, the right shin is moving down. Both thighs move down. The left heel extends forward. The left kneecap firm into the thigh. You have the elbows bent and lifted. You inhale, you lift the torso, and with the exhale, you extend out over your extended left leg into the forward bend. All right, go ahead and come up from there. Extend both legs forward. You can continue to sit on that block if you're on one. And you can continue to use the belt if you wish. We're going to do just a seated forward bend. So take the belt around the ball of both feet if you're using a belt. Extend both heels forward. Tighten both kneecaps into the thighs. Elbows lifted out to the sides. Inhale, lift. Exhale, forward bend. Paschimottanasana. seated forward bend. Your knees may feel a little testy after having been in the hero pose for a while. All right, and then inhale and come up. Take the block away, put the belt to the side for the moment. And we did some of this last week. We did a number of things for the hips last week. And I want to do, so one of the things about knee problems is it's often a hip problem. So a lot of times, it's like what happens is that people will do things like, let me stand where you can see, like if you're standing, people will stand kind of like this, with their hip out to the side, this way or this way. Or, you'll kind of bow your back while you're standing or whatever. There's lots of things you can do through the low back and the hips, which it's a hip problem, but it also puts a lot of stress on this knee. If you're throwing your hip out this way, then it stresses this knee as well. We do a whole lot of activities where the hips are out of symmetry, out of sync. So that's an important thing to always think about when we're doing normal activities is, like with me right now, I look down to give an example and I see, you can't really, well, you can see it. My right foot is turned out and my left foot is straight forward. See, that's not good. That's not good for the knees, not good for the hip, it's not good for the low back. And in fact, it's a direct result of the fact that I have some scoliosis in my low back. My spine kind of curves out to the right, this way. And so I almost automatically have my right foot turned out a little bit. So I have to be very deliberate about when I'm just standing, to be standing with my feet parallel and pointing straight forward. We'll talk a little bit more about this later. But in any case, my point is that the hips have a lot to do with knee problems. The feet have a lot to do with knee problems. So one of the things I want to review from last week or maybe it was 2 weeks ago or whatever, the Supta Utkatasan with 2 belts. So, and I'll show you and describe it as we do. So go ahead and lie back on it, head on that blanket. Scoot back just a little bit more. Okay, so as you all may recall the thing, this is a 2-belt structure if you have 2 belts. So one of the belts is a big loop like this. This is going to go around her left foot and then bend your right knee. This goes like so. Take your okay, so as before, we want this belt to be really high up toward the groin, right up at the very top of the thigh. Then the second belt, go ahead and bring your foot up, this foot. And you hold the belt and lift that foot up to the ceiling. Straighten this leg and then pull it towards you. So you feel that this is being pulled toward your left foot?
I feel it more in the lower leg.
You feel it more back here?
No, more
here. Yeah. So different people will feel this in different places, but the idea is that the more you bring your heel toward your head, this other belt pulls your thigh toward the left foot. So what it does is it causes a hip and sacrum adjustment. And that kind of adjustment has a lot to do with helping you to keep your hips aligned, which will relieve pressure on the knee. So when I have somebody who has knee problems, this is one of the main poses I like to do with them because it allows some adjustment in the knee by adjusting the hip. So that's the idea. This is really one of my favorite poses. This is Supta Utkatasan 1, supine. Extend up to the foot and stretch. You can big extension by stretching up to your, reaching up to your foot. So we're using a belt instead of reaching to your foot, but same idea. Supta Utkatasan 1. We're only going to do this version 1 tonight. You can also bring that right foot out to the right side. You can bring it over to the left side as we've done. But tonight we're just going with version 1, straight up. Okay, and then you can release that, and we're going to switch everything to the second side. So now the belt goes on the left, on the right foot. And then the left knee up inside it. Inside, there. And take it right up at your thigh. Okay. And then bring that foot up to the ceiling. And there we have it. Supta Utkatasan, the second side. So really extend through that right heel. The right kneecap firm into the side, the back of the right knee and thigh moving toward the floor. Meanwhile, the left leg, kneecap is firm into the thigh. You're extending that heel up toward the ceiling, and you're bringing the heel toward your face. Feel it where?
Upper thigh.
In the upper thigh. So the idea is you want to have the belt that's on the lower leg and the left top of the left thigh pretty tight. So there's a pretty good firm pull, kind of a yank almost of that left thigh toward the right foot. Okay, so that's good. You can release. We're only going to do that one time to each side here tonight because I just wanted to kind of review it. It's in other videos that we've done, so that'll be sufficient for now. Okay, so now we're going to roll to your side and come up to a standing posture. So now I'm going to use Anya's. This is the one where I suggested in my email today that if you have a partner, you can make good use of him or her. So if you do, then you're going to take your two belts and make them into loops, something like so. Roughly the same diameter loop. Okay, now we're going to do downward facing dog. So now if you don't have a partner, that's okay. You're just going to do downward dog. And and you're not going to be able to do this, but I want to demonstrate it. People who've been in my classes have seen this done, but we'll show here. So I'm going to pull this out a little bit. Okay, so Anya, I want you to do downward facing dog. Your head that way. So you can just watch this for a moment. And so what we do, I take this looped belt and I put it around her knee so that one strap is above her knee and the other strap is below. So then it can be a little tricky. How do you do that with the other one while you're holding one? And it can be done, but it takes a little practice. So now I've got them both in position. One strap above, one strap below, one strap above, and one strap below. And then I put my feet under her feet to secure, and then I lift back. How's that feel, Anya?
Very intense in the lower leg.
Yeah, this will put some stress on the calves. And you might think it'll hurt your knees, but it really doesn't. You don't want to be yanking back to a hyperextension, but you do want to give a good pull. So this is what it looks like when you're doing this. Now you can imagine, if you think creatively, you can use like stair banisters. You can do this by yourself by hooking this around banisters on a stairway or on bedposts or different things where you could actually kind of do it just with yourself. So that's the idea. Okay, so if you've been in your downward dog for a bit now, rest in downward facing hero pose, Adho Mukha Virasana. So on your knees. This time now, your big toes touch and your knees are apart. And then you lie down forward, knees more apart. That's it. So you just rest for a moment in downward facing hero pose, Adho Mukha Virasana. Yeah, and for those of you who are working with a partner, then you just proceed. You're doing fine. For those who have been resting, go back into downward dog. So while you're in your downward dog, pretend that somebody's pulling your knees back with straps. And see if you can make that action happen yourself. You can also, if you're working with a friend, you can kind of just hold the knees back yourself. Align your feet. Bring this foot back a little bit. Forward. There you go. Okay. So you can also just help by pulling back the knees. And then for those doing down dog on your own, you can rest again in downward facing hero pose. Knees down, knees apart, big toes touch, and rest. So this is another one that I love to do for knees that are not in the happiest place. You'd think, well, if I have a sore knee, won't this make it worse? You have to pay attention and stay within yourself as you do the pose, but as long as it's not hurting or tweaking while you're in it, you should be fine. And just don't overdo it. Don't pull too hard. Don't pull into a hyperextension. Some people who naturally kind of hyperextend, this doesn't help them that much. There's a different thing that I would do for them. And I think we might as well show that different thing as long as we're talking about it. So I'll do that next. All right, let's come back into downward dog, or if you wish to just watch for a moment, you can do that. I'll demonstrate with Anya. Again, people who have done my classes are familiar with this aid. So the belt goes around the very low back, basically at or below the pelvic rim. And then the belt comes between the legs, and then I get a good grip. And again, I'm going to secure her feet. And then just watch in particular her upper back and her back, how it changes when I pull her back. See how that is? How much nicer a pose that is? So this is a beautiful adjustment that you can make with anybody. And because it takes a lot of the weight off of her upper body, she could stay in this pose for quite a while. Anya, walk your hands further forward. Okay, now pull again. So you see, this is a nice pose that she's got going here. Plus, as you can see, it also does a sacral and hip adjustment again, because it's pulling the thighs back. So this allows room for the knees to find an adjustment place. So go ahead and do your own downward dog. And if you have a partner, you can do that. If you don't, just pretend that you have a partner and do what you can. It's another one where if you look around your house, you might have something you can attach your belt to, and you could do this to yourself. As we do in yoga studios that have rope walls, this is very effective. You can do it fine just on your own. Go ahead and do your own downward dog. And try to make that happen by yourself. Try to lift the knees back, tighten the knees into the thighs, and then lift the thighs back as if you've got one person pulling your knees back, and you've got another person pulling your thighs back. Walk your hands almost to the edge of the mat. There you go. Nice, very nice. So you want to reach from the back of the knees through your heels toward the floor, kneecaps firm into the thighs, lift the thighs back. All right, that's nice. Rest again in downward facing hero pose, Adho Mukha Virasana. Knees down, knees apart, big toes touch. And again, if you're working with partners, then just, proceed. I think Tyler, Kevin, you need that belt a little lower toward the buttocks. That's right. Yes. All right, let's come up and let's come all the way up into Tadasana, standing pose. Okay, so let me stand here. You just scoot over just a little bit. Stay on the mat, but just a little bit further over. So for the first thing I wanted to do is just kind of review. Just stand and now take a look at your posture. Look at your feet. Are they parallel to each other? Mine are because I'm paying attention, but a lot of the time we just spontaneously find the wrong spot. Let me move my camera back a bit so there's a chance that you'll be able to, so it's understated my head, so my head isn't completely cut off. Okay. It's I'm using a different laptop than usual. Okay, I'm getting there.
Tilt the screen of the computer.
Okay, that's pretty good. Okay, so now your feet can either be together or a little bit apart, but parallel to each other. And again, one of the critical things for a healthy knee is the hips, yes, but also the feet. So you can kind of see how if you spontaneously do like I do and have my right foot turned out, or your left foot, whatever it is, or otherwise mispositioned relative to the other foot, that's turning the knee out too. And it's turning the hip out as well. It turns the thigh in the hip at least. So if you do this all the time, and if you tend to lean on one foot and then the other, you can see how this just causes a whole bunch of asymmetries and can be damaging. Plus, a lot of times people just have jobs or things that they do that cause asymmetry, that require it. So having a Tadasana, having a practice where you really deliberately pay attention to the symmetry is critical to having healthy knees. Similarly, like if you're standing in the line at grocery stores, check your posture. How, are you aligned? Are your hips aligned with your knees and ankles? So go ahead and take that position. Let's lift the ball of the left foot, lengthen and widen across the sole of the foot. Put the foot back down. Same with the other foot. Lengthen, widen, foot down. Now we want to tighten the kneecaps into the thighs. So with me, you can really see it pretty tightly, pretty clearly. When I tighten my kneecaps, these muscles go firm and the kneecap really moves. So when it's loose, I can move. Most people can do this. Not everyone, but I can. My kneecap is quite loose. But then when I tighten them, the kneecap won't move. It's because you've tightened the quadricep muscles as they pull and the tendons that pull the kneecap firm. So we want to stand this way as much as possible. The kneecaps firm into the thighs, open across the soles of the feet. And now pay attention to the sole of the foot. We want to balance the weight on the big toe mound, the fourth toe mound, the inner and the outer heel. So you want to be aware of all four of those contact points as you stand in Tadasana. Now, imagine how it felt, or you imagined how it felt as you tighten the kneecaps into the thighs, doing downward dog, having the knees pulled back. So do that. Kind of move the knees back. Now we want to take the groins and move them back, like we had with that belt being pulled back. And we want to internally circularize the skin and muscles of the thighs. So we want to press down with the big toe mounds. Now lift the torso and open the chest. Let's bring the hands into Namaskar at the chest. Just be aware here. Just stand here for a few moments and be aware of how it feels to have yourself really balanced evenly on those 4 points of each foot. The kneecaps firm into the thighs, the kneecaps and the thighs moving back, and an internal rotation of the skin and muscles of the thighs, along with the pressing down of the big toe mounds into the floor. If you can maintain all of that, then also extend down with the fourth toe mount. So you now have a nice, engaged and symmetrical feeling with the legs. Now, one more thing, without moving your feet, do the action as if you're going to separate your feet. So this will really engage the outer thigh. So these are all things which will bring symmetry, balance, and a stability to the whole lower body. And this will help with knee issues and such. Okay, just step out and take a few breaths. It takes a lot of effort to stand with deliberate effort like that. Okay, so now we've done a fair number of things for adjustment and opening. Now I want to do something that will be more strengthening, because the other thing you need to do to have healthy knees is to have strong quadricep muscles. So if your quads are weak, then they won't give stability to the knee. So step out a little bit towards the front there. So we're going to do Utkatasan. So I'm going to do this near the wall. And so I'm going to have my feet about 5 or 6 inches from the wall, and my feet about hip distance apart from each other. And then my shoulder blades against the wall. Now you won't have to use the wall, but I'm going to show with the wall. So then I'm going to squat down. Actually, I want my feet a little bit further out, so a good 6 inches out. So as I squat down, I keep my back against the wall, and I can really feel it in the quads. Now, for those who don't have a wall to work with, either tonight or whenever you're doing this, you can sit on a chair. And this is also good for people who really don't have strength. The wall really helps with a lack of strength in the quads, but this does as well. So the idea here is you can just kind of come off like so. And then we're going to extend the arms forward like that. So you see, it's also called lightning bolt pose, and then you can come back down. So you can use your hands and bring the arms up, come forward, bring your hands down, and sit back down. So the chair version is quite fine. So Anya, why don't you try the chair version? So just let's see, let's have you here. So come right to the edge of the chair with your sit bones. Yeah, that's it. And now bring your arms forward and then lean forward just a little bit and lift off the chair. Yes. Now bring your arms up as high as you can. That's it. Nice. You got good shoulder mobility. So this will burn your thighs. And then you can put your hands on the chair and sit back down. So using the wall, it looks like this. So I can bring my arms up and then I can come down like so. This is a nice way to practice because you can really keep a kind of organization in the body that you really have a hard time doing without the wall. The idea is if you're not using any support, you come down like so, but you don't want to lean forward like this. You want to keep the shoulders back over the hips as best you can. So it's like so. Okay, so give it another go, whichever version you're using, either chair, wall, or nothing. And see how it feels. Utkatasan, powerful pose. All the way up with your arms. Okay, and then you lean forward. And no, keep your arms up. And then lean forward, and then see if you can lift off. Yeah, stay down as low as you can. You want to just be a few inches off the chair. That's it. Very nice. Now you've got a huge, you're just this way with your huge thing. Lift back against my fingers. No, just here. So here, bring this back. Keep your butt tucked under and bring this back. I know it's hard. Someone like Anya who has easy flexibility in the low back can overdo the low back thing. Okay, take a rest. And then we'll give it one more try. So when you're ready, when you're rested, go ahead and take one more shot at powerful pose, Utkatasan, sometimes called lightning bolt pose. And when you get tired, come out of the pose. All right, so I think that's it's a little bit of a short class, but I think that's enough for tonight. Now we're going to go ahead and set up for Shavasana, and then I'll give you a few final things. So you can go over there onto your own thing now, Anya. So use that blanket as a pillow. So go ahead and set yourself up for your Shavasana. This will do for my pillow. I'm going to, when I do the Shavasana, I'm going to have a bolster under my knees. Because if you want to continue to release the knees and the thighs, this is good for doing that in Shavasana. So I'm going to have that nearby. And let me adjust the camera again a little bit. And then we're going to just go ahead and lie down. So stretch out on your back. Don't use the bolster just yet. Nothing under the knees quite yet. But we want to do Tadasana again, standing pose, only lying down. So with your big toe mounds and your big toes touching, tighten the kneecaps into the thighs and extend the heels. Press the back of the knees and thighs into the floor And then as you extend the big toe mounds, internally circularize the skin and muscles of the thighs. Now, put your elbows down and lift the inner edge of the shoulder blades and take the outer shoulders into the floor. Hands can rest on the floor, palms up at this point. Extend the crown of the head the opposite way of the feet. And then we're going to hug the right knee into the chest. So just draw that right knee into the chest as you extend the left heel away. Notice that we have the sacrum even on the floor. Shoulder blades even on the floor. The crown of the head evenly balanced on the floor. And then move through Supta Tadasana to the second side, bringing the left knee up, changing the interlace of the fingers. Draw that left knee into the chest, extend the right heel. Keep the back of that right leg moving into the floor. Sacrum, shoulder blades, back of the head, evenly balanced on the floor. And then move through your Supta Tadasana to the second side. I'm sorry, back to the first side, second time. Keep that sacrum, the shoulder blades even on the floor. And then through Supta Tadasana, one more time to the second side. Back to Supta Tadasana. And then let's hug both knees into the chest. Allow the low back to be flat on the floor. Just kind of rest here. You can even move back and forth a little bit or move the knees in a circle just to bring a little relief into the low back and feel quite nice. You do the circularizing the knees, then after a few rounds, then reverse that circular motion. And then we'll keep the knees bent, but rest the feet on the floor. And then now is when, if you want to use that bolster, go ahead and put it under your knees. Let the knees and legs fall out away from each other. Let the weight of your legs release into the bolster or the floor. Release the feet, release the torso. Your hands can either be on the floor, palms up, or on your torso, palms down. Close your eyes. Move into a nice quiet breath. Let the body completely release. Follow the breath to a place, maybe even of stillness. All right, and take a few slightly deeper breaths, or feel free to stay in Shavasana as you may wish. For those who are coming out, take a few deeper breaths. Bring your hands to your abdomen or torso. Let your eyes open. Bend your knees and roll to your side. Stay curled up for a few more breaths. When you come up, keep your neck soft and bring the crown of your head up last. So you use some arm strength and push to a seated posture. All right. Thank you all for coming. And namaste.
Namaste.
Just a heads up, I'm not going to do class next week because I'm going to be out of town. I could do it remotely, but I'm going to be on vacation. It'd just be too complicated to try and do that. And so I'm going to just skip next week. Feel free to dive into the YouTube library. There's plenty of sessions recorded there if you wish. And then I'll be back, again, the following Tuesday. All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thanks.
How did the Wednesday class go?
The Wednesday class was quite good. It's very, one second here, let me turn off the record.